must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us. It is 3 p.m. here in Nairobi. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where I get to bring you the latest from the continent of Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and a warm welcome to you. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in today, the 19th of July, 2021. And so we'll start our news today from South Sudan. And health authorities in South Sudan say they have closed down all COVID-19 vaccination centers after running out of the gerbs. The country received 132,000 doses of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from the COVAX facility, but 72,000 of them were donated to neighboring Kenya over concerns that they would expire before use. South Sudan had a slow rollout of the vaccination program, and the ministry says the doses that remained had been used to vaccinate more than 50,000 people with the first dose and 4,000 of them with a second dose. About 9,000 healthcare workers have been vaccinated. We go to South Africa, and South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma has appeared on a video link from prison to attend a corruption trial. Mr. Zuma faces charges of fraud and racketeering dating back to the 1990s. This is the first time he has been seen since he was sent to jail for contempt of court, a move that sparked a week of looting and arson in South Africa. He sat quietly in a large office chair in a nondescript prison room. He wore a dark suit and a red tie and said a little as his lawyer argued for another postponement of his corruption trial. The hearing took place online due to the pandemic and security concerns. Mr. Zuma has now spent more than a week in prison after he was found guilty of contempt of court for refusing to participate in a separate corruption inquiry. The decision to sentence Mr. Zuma to 15 months in jail sparked protest, which quickly turned violent, leading to more than 200 deaths and widespread looting and arson. And then we go to Sao Tome. Votes are being counted in Sao Tome's presidential election after polls closed on Sunday in a country considered a regional model of democracy. According to the National Electoral Commission, the voting process was conducted normally despite boycotts, especially in the Mezochi and Lemba municipalities. Voting was cancelled in 4 polling stations on Sunday after residents boycotted the polls, demanding better living conditions. 19 candidates were vying to succeed Evaristo Carvalho, president since 2016, who has decided not to stand again. Nearly 123,000 voters cast their vote to choose the next president of the tiny African island. Preliminary results are reportedly expected this morning, but so far we're still waiting for the results of that election that took place in Sao Tome yesterday. We go to Ethiopia, and the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region is showing further signs of spreading to other areas, with fighting now reported in neighboring Afar state. The government accused the Tigrayan rebels of attacking civilians and blocking aid, but the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, TPLF, say they are targeting government-allied militias in the region. The TPLF said the attacks along the Afar border over the weekend were very limited, though the government accused the group of using heavy artillery. The rebel group told the AFP news agency that it has been targeting militias from Oromia that were brought into Afar. It is difficult to verify details of the fighting or determine casualty figures. Fresh fighting along the Afar-Tigrayan border could hinder humanitarian efforts, making things worse for civilians in the war-torn Tigrayan region. And then we go to Nigeria, and Nigeria has placed its capital Abuja and 6 other states on high alert following the emergence of the Delta variant of coronavirus in the country. The Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, in a statement on Saturday, said the number of new cases and hospital admissions have continued to rise. The 2 most popular states in the country, Kano and Lagos, are among the 6 places with worrisome early signs of the 3rd wave of the pandemic. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control said 203 COVID-19 infections were recorded on on Sunday. So far, nearly 170,000 cases have been confirmed, with 2,127 deaths having been reported so far. And still staying with Nigeria, gunmen abducted at least 60 people in northwestern Nigeria after riding motorbikes into 5 villages and firing sporadically into the air, a police official and several residents said. Nigeria is battling an increase in armed robberies and kidnappings for ransom, mainly northwestern areas where thinly stretched security forces often fail to stop the abductions. The latest kidnapping took place in Zamfara State overnight on Friday, said regional police spokesperson Mohammed Shehu, adding that investigations were ongoing. 4 residents told Reuters armed men had attacked villages in the Shinkara area, causing panic and abducting at least 60 villagers before escaping into the nearby forest. The gunmen, who are known locally as bandits and have increasingly targeted schools, also fired a rocket that hit the house of the senior district head of the local council, said one resident asking not to be identified. And back here in Kenya, the United Kingdom has retained Kenya in the list of countries whose nationals are barred from entering Britain, dealing a blow to Nairobi's efforts for review of the travel embargo. The UK last week updated countries on England's red list amid concerns about the spread of new COVID-19 variants. Kenya remained on the travel ban list, where it was first included in April, triggering a tit-for-tat travel blockade from Nairobi. The UK travel ban comes amid fears that the highly contagious COVID-19 Delta variant may spark a 4th wave of infections in Kenya over the next 2 months. And Djibouti and Ethiopia have secured finance to build a second electricity transmission line after the 2 neighbors enjoyed the returns from the first project that linked their power grids. The first project has enabled Djibouti to import Ethiopia's hydropower processed, renewable and cheap electricity. After the 2 countries agreed to further develop the project, the Africa Development Bank, AFDB has now approved 2 grand loans worth $83.6 million, which enables Ethiopia and Djibouti to proceed with the construction of their second power transmission line, which will eventually boost their energy trade. We head over back to South Africa, and South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa visited 3 shopping centers in Soweto on Sunday to help clean up damaged businesses. Malls of the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng provinces were amongst the most affected by the violence and looting that has gripped the country for the last 10 days. Unrest started after former President Jacob Zuma started serving a 15-month sentence for contempt of court for refusing to comply with a court order to testify at a state-backed inquiry investigating allegations of corruption. While he was in office, a protest quickly escalated into theft in township areas. In Durban, rioters attacked retail areas and industrial centers where they emptied warehouses and set them ablaze. Go to Rwanda, and the Rwandan capital Kigali and 8 other districts across the country are set back into lockdown to curb surging coronavirus cases and deaths. Citizens are urged to significantly reduce social interactions and limit movements only to essential services until the 26th of July. Both public and private offices, except for those providing key services, were ordered closed. Other measures due to come into force include a ban on outdoor sport and recreational activities, while schools will be closed and the number of people attending funerals is capped at 15. International arrivals and tourism will, however, continue. A dusk to dawn curfew introduced in June across the country remains in force. Rwanda has up until now avoided the worst of the pandemic by enforcing some of the strictest containment measures on the continent and implementing a rigorous regime of testing and contact tracing. And then the African Union has admitted difficulties in raising a ready force to deal with emerging conflicts, signaling a continual lack of commitment among members. A session of the African Union Peace and Security Council earlier this month agreed to continue pooling resources for the African standby force, but raised concerns about the apparent low contribution from member states. The AU standby force was muted 20 years ago, but slowly adopted as the policy ran into AU's own red tape, such as as the initial policy of non-interference in each other's affairs as well as financial commitment. The bloc later decided to work with regional blocs such as the East African Community, the Economic Community of West African States, that is ECOWAS, and the Southern Africa Development Corporation, SADC, to pool troops that will be on standby to intervene in local security situations. And gunmen in Mali have abducted 3 Chinese nationals and 2 Mauritanians from a construction site in southwestern Mali, that is according to the country's armed forces. The assailants stormed the site 54 kilometers from the town of Kuala on Saturday and made off with 5 pickup trucks and the hostages, Mali's armed forces said in a statement on Facebook. The men also destroyed equipment, including a crane and dump trucks belonging to Chinese construction firm and Mauritanian road building company, according to the army. We go to Eswatini, and the King of Eswatini has appointed a new prime minister, ignoring calls for democratic reforms as police cracked down on protest. In his first public address since violent demonstrations broke out in the kingdom last month, King Mswati III announced that former pension fund boss Cleophas Dlamini would replace Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini, who died in December after contracting COVID-19. The announcement was made following demonstrations demanding the right to democratically elect a prime minister, among other reforms in Africa's only remaining absolute monarchy. And then we end by heading back to Ethiopia, and the Ethiopian government says it has met its second-year target for filling a dam on the River Nile and says it plans to start electricity production within months. The controversial multi-billion-dollar dam has stoked tension with both Egypt and Sudan. The authorities in Cairo are extremely concerned that the country's water supply will be affected by the project. Ethiopia's Minister of Water said there was now enough water in the dam reservoir to operate the 2 turbines. The 3 countries have held numerous rounds of negotiations but have failed to resolve the dispute. And that is the latest from the continent this afternoon. I don't know if there's a story that we need to relook at, but I think the story that I just ended with there in Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt, of course, as I've mentioned here before, they've had issues where Ethiopia are filling this, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, but, Ethiopia has gone ahead to fill it anyway. So, and just about 2 or so months ago, Egypt and Sudan were carrying out some military drill on the same Nile. I think it was a form of a threat, I don't know, to scare Ethiopia away or to stop Ethiopia from filling that dam. But as it appears, that did not work out because Ethiopia went ahead and filled the dam anyway. So anyway, it says it has met its target for the second filling. So I guess they'll start having that electricity. And Rwanda, the COVID cases have gone up, and which is a cause for concern. And Rwanda, a country like Rwanda, Uganda in the continent have been a few of the countries that have really managed to curb the spread of COVID-19 compared to other countries. But you see now there's a cause for concern in Rwanda as well as Uganda. As we speak right now, there are stringent measures in line with restrictions and all that to contain COVID-19, the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Well, not too good for Kenya, as Britain has retained that ban over COVID-19 for Kenyans going to the UK right now, and the United Kingdom has retained Kenya in the list of the countries whose nationals are barred from entering Britain, dealing a blow to Nairobi's efforts to review the travel embargo. We do a lot of business between Kenya and the UK, and also a lot of travels, a lot of things happen. So a lot is at stake here. So I guess this is not very good news for Kenyans who maybe were waiting for this travel ban to be lifted, embargo to be lifted, so that they could travel to the UK. And Kenya continues to be on that list. And UK last week updated countries on England's red list, that's what they call it, amid concerns about the spread of the new COVID-19 variants. Kenya remained on the travel ban list, where it was first included in April not such a good news. And of course, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on Sunday went to places that we saw those unfortunate, incidents happen where South Africans decided to loot shops and burn things and cause a lot of distraction. Very shameful images are coming from that the last 10 days, I believe. So President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the places that were mostly affected, and I was just watching the speech that he was making while he was there, and he's saying the government will go after you're going to go after all the thousands of people who we saw looting. Even I saw others even stealing caskets. Like, what are you going to do with a casket that is meant to bury a dead body? What are you going to do with that? They were looting things that nobody would even think. You wonder what is wrong with these people. So he's saying he will go after them. I don't know, maybe a few of the faces that, people who post them on social media or who are caught by the cameras, there may be a few of those. They might be able to apprehend them, but that will be a daunting task there for President Cyril Ramaphosa. How about your government start to go into the root of what is really aiding the people of South Africa and try to have conversations, that might try to address the issues, because that, what we saw, had nothing to do with the former President Jacob Zuma, going to jail. That is a deep-seated problem, and we see it manifest during the space of xenophobic attacks. We see it manifest when now the former president was being taken to jail. It has nothing to do. They just look for a trigger. So I think President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, the people who committed these crimes, you have to apprehend them. But there are so many, I don't know how you're going to cherry pick them. But I think South Africa has to reconcile itself with the past and the present, because there are lots of issues there that perhaps are still ailing these people and that needs to be addressed. So you'll keep apprehending them, you'll get a few of them, but when they get another tipping point, they'll still go back to doing this. And that their underlying issues, I believe, much of it has to do with apartheid, historical marginalization and all of that. So I think it's about time that South Africa had a very candid conversation with itself and its people, so that they're able to heal, and so that this ugly scenes that like we saw happen there don't keep repeating itself. It's very sad and it's very unfortunate. People invest a lot of money in these businesses, in these malls, in these shops like we saw, and then you see people just coming in and causing all that distraction. And out of that also, a lot of lives were lost. 200 people died. That's too many people, because at some point the police was overwhelmed. So, the army had to go to the streets to try and curb those violent scenes that we were seeing. Very, very unfortunate at this from South Africa. I mean, it's very sad and also shameful at the very least. But I think it's about time that South Africa tried to talk about what really is ailing South Africa. And Zuma going to jail was just a trigger. And speaking of Zuma, today, he appeared on a video link from prison to attend a corruption trial. Mr. Zuma faces charges of fraud and racketeering dating back to the 1990s, and this is the first time he has been seen since he was sent to jail for contempt of court, a move that sparked a week of looting and arson in South Africa. So regardless of what has been happening the last 10 days or so, the court system there continues with doing its job. And so Mr. Zuma today appeared through a video link, but of course his lawyer was there, and for the majority of the time, Zuma was just quiet, and his lawyer did the talking. And Mr. Zuma has now spent more than a week in prison, and he was found guilty of contempt of court for refusing to participate in a separate corruption inquiry. The decision to sentence Mr. Zuma to 15 months in jail, of course, sparked those protests that we've been seeing. So now he does not have an excuse not to attend. You're in jail, so now your freedom is limited. You cannot say and you're attending through Zoom or whatever it is they're using, the video link. So now I think that would be the best place for Zuma to be attending this sessions that he's been trying to run away from. He's been refusing, so now he's there and he can't go anywhere because what else is he doing? They're in jail, of course. Interesting. And of course, we're waiting for the results of the elections that happened yesterday in Sao Tome, and we're waiting for the results. It was supposed to be out earlier today, but that was not possible. And according to the National Electoral Commission, the voting process conducted was good. And the Sao Tome is just one of the countries in the continent that is seen as having very good, what do you call it? A healthy democracy, whatever that is. And so, but during that voting, there was some, opposition. I think opposition supporters there that decided that would be the day for them to go out there and protesting over better living conditions. How about you just go and vote and use your vote to speak your voice and to elect somebody you think will be a solution to your to address the issue of better living. You were protesting on a voting day, and yet you do have the power in your hand to make that change and to put somebody in place who you think can bring you that change by going out to vote. I'm telling you. But anyway, so we're waiting, and the preliminary is also supposed to be out this morning, as I said there, but I've not seen that anywhere. So we are still waiting to see how that will pan out. Of course, the issue and the conflict in Tigray continues and is now spreading in other areas. Other regions are getting affected there. And I was reading a story, I don't know how I did not put it as part of the news this afternoon. Ethiopia was warning foreign media houses who keep referring to the Tigrayan forces as a military, something like that, like legitimizing, because according to the Ethiopian government, remember, they proscribed TPLF, and they're now a terrorist group. All right, so they're not a military group. So Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is not very happy by the kind of these titles that especially the outside media is referring to the TPLF. According to Abiy Ahmed, this is a terrorist group, this is a militia, and this is an illegal group as far as he knows. But we know otherwise. So anyway, so he's not very happy. So he's put all the international media who are in Ethiopia trying to cover this story on notice. So you keep calling these Tigrayan forces all these wonderful names. You might be arrested, and you might be, they might get you out of the country. Of course, the issue of insecurity continues in Nigeria. A couple of people were, abducted over the weekend. 60 people. I mean, what can we say? 60 people abducted in a village. These people come with motorbikes, and they round up all these people in villages in the same place, Zamfara State. And the government of Nigeria already knows this is a place that is prone to such activities. Why they have not made attempts to beef up security in these areas is what I keep wondering about. Why hasn't the Nigerian government taken the step to beef up security, knowing that this area are vulnerable to such activities of abduction, of kidnapping, of killings, of activities related to the banditry and Boko Haram? Why hasn't the Nigerian government done anything to try and mitigate, at least look like it's doing something? It has not. So every day we just keep talking about 60 people abducted, 100 students from a school abducted. Until when? This thing is getting very tired and old, and Nigeria has broken its own record. So I think when Nigerians will get tired, I think they will demand for better. And I think that's all we have for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you again tomorrow, God willing. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good afternoon.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and the Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, we see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There is nothing to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya, that has escalated in the Saharan region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you.